Welcome to the Black Duck Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilkins. I'm excited to have you join me as I speak with a fascinating collection of folks, all of whom have in common that they've made a way for themselves by finding an intersection between thoughtful consideration and the tactile work of getting their hands dirty. This is an examination of intention, capability, and craft. It's where philosophy meets the blue-collar work ethic and where I find real value. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Right now I'm in a warehouse in and around Brandon, Mississippi. Is this Pearl, Mississippi?
Technically in Pearl.
Okay, but not very far from where I was on last week's episode when I was visiting with Ramsey Russell. But today I have the great pleasure of being in the Spring Legion warehouse, and I'm joined by one Hunter Farrior of the brand Spring Legion. Hunter, thank you very much we've been talking a little bit, but thanks very much for letting me come and visit with you in the middle of turkey season.
I appreciate you swinging on by.
Man, I think no one could deny that you're a tried and true Mississippi turkey hunter because we've been texting back and forth for the last couple of days, and I think most of the time I've been communicating with you. I'm sitting trying to call up a turkey, and you've obviously been more successfully calling turkeys.
Not the whole time.
I try not to scroll my phone when I'm hunting, but sometimes, and it's been kind of rough, so I kind of did yesterday. And I think I was sending you a message or something, and I looked and I saw that picture of that bird hanging, and I was like, the Joker killed him one man.
Man, yeah, it was a good morning. It was a quick one, but my buddy Easton, who lives in West Virginia, he had ridden down, and he wanted to experience Mississippi turkey hunting. He'd let me come hunt some mountain birds last year, and we had a good time up there. And I told him, I said, come on, it's a little different. He'd never seen an ant mound, and he thought he knew what humidity was, but he's learned real quick what it really is. And we were on them the day before that, and couldn't strike much, and finally got on one about 10:30 or so. Got him to answer us, and wound up letting him ride out with his hens just so we could kind of survey the area a little bit and come back the next morning with a better idea of what they like to be in. That's what we wanted to do, was figure out where they were, because when you're not hearing a lot, figuring out what's comfortable to them is very important, I think, and we were able to get in there and see. The whole place was turned over from scratching and stuff, and we knew those hens with him and heard them and tried to cut back them enough and get them to come up there, and they wound up getting vocal with each other, but never enough with our calling to come in and let them ride out, and slipped up there, checked out the place, and then came back the next morning, made sure we were there before anybody else got there, and lo and behold, he wasn't far from where we left him at 10 o'clock the morning prior. So we made a good setup on him and got where it was easy for him to come in. Obviously, it was confirmed by his location the day before. We knew he could get there and tricked him. He thought we were a real hen, did a fly down. He hit the ground early. We were luckily already there. He started gobbling early and allowed us to get in there and get close to a tree at least before his next gobble was on the ground. We weren't sitting on the tree quite yet. I said, we got to sit right now, and we did, and did a fly down and a couple yelps, and that hunt was quick, but it was actually like a day and a half long hunt. It felt like, after you kind of had everything together. But it was a pretty morning. I don't know what we would have done after about 7:30, because they get a little tight-lipped this time of year after they do find a hen. So best chance is to try to be the first, and hope you don't have to pull them off. But we're lucky then. And then my buddy Easton, he's still out there right now. He just texted me not long ago after a big thunderstorm had come through and said he had heard one. So he's gonna figure out how to kill him in Mississippi by himself, I guess. It's a little different than hunting up there, but it's fun.
Man, so I was texting with a buddy of mine, and you know Josh Raggio?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to Raggio about this 2 seasons ago. I think most people that turkey hunt have at least a general understanding, that Easterns are more difficult or wilier or harder to kill than, like say a Rio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Raggio about it, and I was asking him, I was like, man, why do you think that is? And he was telling me, I think 2 years ago, he said that maybe that was his 25th season hunting turkeys by himself. And he said that he had seen a real difference in like the predator load since he started, like as far as coyotes, which I think a lot of folks listen to the podcast would know that, coyotes are not native to this part of the country. They're a southwestern animal. In the last 100 years, they've proliferated all the way across, right? So they're all the way up into Maine now. And they absolutely have an impact on ground nesting birds. But, also with, the decline in fur trapping, they're just predators, coons, skunks, possums, coyotes, bobcats. I mean, I've called in coyotes turkey hunting. Yeah. I've called in bobcats. I told you on this property I'm hunting, I've seen like a pile of coons during the day. Yeah. I keep hitting skunks in the roads when I'm going in the dark. There's just a lot of stuff that can mess with them. But anyway, Raggio was saying that he thought that it corresponded with, like, he saw more coyotes every year, and that he felt like the birds were less and less willing to gobble once they got off the roost, because he thought they'd start to understand they were vulnerable doing that. I was telling my buddy, I said, man, think about this. I said, they say that like the average lifespan of a gobbler is 3 years, right? So I said, the way that we turkey hunt now, as far as calling them in, if you look back at the history of turkey calls, and, obviously 1,000 years ago, people were taking a blade of grass and mouth calling them, right? But if you look at just kind of how we hunt them now, when folks started making trumpet calls, like wingbone calls, when slate was introduced, box calls, all that kind of stuff. Essentially, people have been in the southeast. People have been hunting turkeys this way for, generously, let's call it 150 years, right? Mm-hmm. So then say that's 50 generations of these birds being pursued intensely here in this region. We talked about earlier before we started recording. You go out west, it's a totally different situation, and I don't think it's just because you're hunting a lot of transplanted Rios and stuff. I think it's because, when you go to Oregon or California or Montana, even though it's become stylish to go there to hunt turkeys the last few years, those birds don't have the cultural value that they have here, right? Like a turkey has the cultural value that an elk has in Montana, right? And so the way they're so intensely pursued, I think that has to have some impact. I think generationally those birds learn to be, I mean, I'm sure there's genetic differences as well, but like, because a Rio just seems like it wants to be more vocal, right?
It does.
But, man, and then even like throughout the South, I think that you've probably got birds in, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the place that the real height where they're really intensely valued, where, otherwise good people will do bad things to get on a gobbling bird, right? I think that you're just probably dealing with birds that, like, if they make it to 3 years, man, it's because they're doing something right.
And that's the thing. I think they are so intensely pursued here, and I tell folks all the time that, what makes them different down there, and I think they're born probably the same. It's just if they do make it to 3, they ain't dumb, because there's someone waiting at every corner to kill it if it is dumb. To make it that far is doing something as a turkey, I think, in this region. I think it's such it's next to a religion around here, and folks just value it so high. And I was trying to explain it to my buddy on the way down here. He's non-resident, and all I hunt is really public, even at home. And he can't hunt public till the 1st of April, and And he's like, well, we can find some private. Maybe I'm like, it's not like that around here necessarily. I'm not going to ask if I can. It's just a respect thing.
Yeah.
I like it, but I'm dang sure not going to ask if I can bring somebody onto someone else's private. Because I was like, they might shoot me. It's just a different culture, It's just certain lines and stuff, and because everybody does hunt them, and everybody values them very highly, and that's just create some educated birds. And I think, and I have heard, whether or not this is true or not, just from non-hunting folks in biology who have been able to describe genetics and all that stuff, that the learned behaviors over time, the more often they're pursued, the more they can pass down, not knowledge, but instinctual stuff over generations and generations of maybe not, hey, what a human is, but maybe a sense of alertness that could biologically be higher than the other birds of different regions. I don't know. That's not what I get paid to do, is figure that out. I try to just figure out which ridge he's on, and the way they can turn their gobbles between hollows and right over the lip of it it's hard enough for me to figure out. I ain't got time to worry about why they are so hard, and some of them, and then some of them ain't that hard. It's just a lot of times the terrain. It's really thick stuff. It depends on where you're hunting them. Yesterday was in a beautiful bottom, a creek bottom that was, about as pretty as you could paint a picture. And then a couple of weeks ago, I killed one in I called it a pine straw jungle. I could not tell the difference in 5 and 50 yards because it was just so monotonous in there. Everything was the exact same color, the exact same height, the exact same depth. It's just dead pine straw from the floor to the ceiling. And those are fun hunts to me, though. I enjoy hunting those, and you learn how to course drumming and knowing that one's drumming 25 yards from you, and you have not the slightest idea where it's coming from because everything's muffled, and he's behind one of these pine trees that are all identical. And you got to hope you pick the right one, because as soon as he steps out, it's going to be... He's one half a step away from going back behind it, and you'll never see him again, turn into a ghost. And that's when my heart gets pumping. It's not necessarily one comes strutting in and looking pretty. It's just whenever they're Houdiniing you like that. And some years there's a lot, some years there's not. But I take them. I'm not prejudiced towards any of them. As long as they got a swinging beard, I'm happy to hunt them.
Yeah, man. There's a. I do think there's something to this with, when you have an animal that's pressured. Someone told me this years ago, but they said, I think we, in our mind, like say chasing deer, right? We, in our mind, getting on a big, mature, just like impressive specimen of the whitetail species, you think you're getting like just the biggest, baddest, toughest deer. And really what you're doing is you're getting like the biggest coward, because that's the deer that survived, because every time he heard a noise, he got out of there.
Yeah.
Like the nosy, like he's like, have you ever seen folks talk about like, that like, a black horror movie would be 10 minutes long because as soon as some crazy stuff happened, like they'd be like, man, we're out of here, dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to go investigate.
We're not just going to hang out and find out.
Oh, there's a spooky sound coming. We're going to go over there. Right?
Yep.
It's the same way with dogs. Like the wolves that were less aggressive to people that would come hang around the fire would get thrown like a hawk or something. Right. And so when they had offspring, like, that just kept repeating itself. There's got to be something to it. But it's one of the reasons that I've leaned in to trying to hunt them in the South the last few seasons, because, and truthfully, I knew what I was doing. I went west to cut my learning curve down because I went someplace where I could get a bunch of opportunity. Right? Like I had not had success in Arkansas to the point that I was not enjoying it. And so, and I'm sure we'll talk turkey numbers in the Southeast, but I feel like in Arkansas, anecdotally anyway, we're starting to have better numbers the last couple of seasons. But man, 10 years ago, man, it was hard. It was hard. And like I would go places, I never hear a gobble. I didn't know enough to know what was going on. And so anyway, going west allowed me to have a lot of experiences with turkeys and kind of figure some stuff out, what I could get away with, what I couldn't. And then hunting in the South, I feel like is making me a better turkey hunter. And especially like hunting with folks like my buddy David Joy up in western North Carolina that hunts those mountain birds. Man, David's like a different level of turkey hunter. It's not run and gun. You know, this is a guy that spends every day he's walking the woods, and he's finding, scratching, and he knows what ridges they're on, and he knows where they should be. And he's really the one that communicated to me a few seasons ago. He's like, man, this isn't like just yelping at birds. He's like, you know, it's ironic. He's a novelist, but he really tries to tell a story.
Right.
You know, that's where I learned about really like the difference in, like a Jake yelp. You know, that like wah wah wah,
like a honk.
Yeah, that.
And when they happen, and
why that would happen, and how to instigate like a territorial feeling in a gobbler to some degree with that Jake interaction, right? And this is a guy who's like he never has matching camo, right?
Yeah.
He'd never hunt over a decoy.
My kind of guy.
He walks around the woods and he'll have like a walking stick with him, and he'll like just point at stuff to you. All right.
Yeah.
And there's a degree of him testing you too. He's trying to see if you're paying enough attention to see what he's just pointing a stick at, right? I mean, he'll explain it to you if you key in on it. But man, he's been like he's a really good teacher, and he's a real reluctant one too. So like I feel real lucky that he lets me come and hunt with him. I'm going to go back there this year. But all that to say, yeah, dude, I'm glad someone's having success with turkeys. I told you, I've been hunting for 4 days on a good property, a property with birds on it, and I have not heard a single gobble. And it's, I'm getting to that point in my trip where, I've not lost my optimism, but I'm having to purposely try and stay optimistic.
Right, yeah. I've been there, dude. And I'm going to be there before the season's up, and this, I believe, firmly in wild turkey voodoo is what I call it. Which I had a 10-day stint there where I don't know of hearing a gobble for at least half of it. And and folks were killing them left and right, and I knew they were doing their thing, and it was beautiful weather. I'm like, I've just picked the wrong spots, and it's it happens, and there's trying to find your way out. Sometimes you feel like the harder you dig, the further you fall back down, and the second you sit and take a break and look around, you're standing on top of one, and you're like, it's just there, and the tide has turned, and everything's back to normal. You're through it. It's over with for a little while, and you can get back, and then that, or you're going to rush it and miss. I've done that a lot of times too. You forget where the safety is, and you forget how to shoot a turkey and what to do when one is coming at you. And I talk about this with my buddy Gary all the time, and because we talk about things. I only talk with him during turkey season, but I talk to him on a every other day basis during turkey season, either talking about hunts we had or stuff. But a majority of our conversation is about the intangibles of it, and it is the difference in how you go about calling when you're in a slump versus when you're not in a slump, or stuff, when your confidence is high versus when your confidence is low. And there's many times I start doing stuff that I know I'm not supposed to be doing if I want to kill a turkey, and it's just I'm tired of that not working, so I'm going to start doing what everybody else does or something. I'm just going to walk around these outside roads and use a box call and hope I get an easy one kind of deal. Yeah. And it's like that ain't ever going to work kind of in this area, and just sometimes you need to reset. You need to go cut the grass. That's the best thing you can do is just get out there and let your mind reset and cool off and kind of get back to your know-how and be disciplined in stuff you do know. And the most important thing is be there, because the tide's going to turn, and if you ain't there, you'll never know it. And it could have been turned 3 days ago. Or at least tell myself that.
No, dude, look, I totally believe it. It's, I trap a lot, and there are days where it seems like just everything moves, and you'll just look, all of this is good for me, man. I was telling my girls when we were running a trap line over Christmas, and they were getting, we caught a possum today. I got 35 sets out. We caught a possum, we caught a raccoon. And they're just getting bummed on it. We're driving 45 minutes to the place, they're blah, blah. I'm resetting stuff. And then that day I was trying to tell them, I was like, look, if you just keep doing the right thing, and as a dad, you're constantly trying to like impart these life lessons, right? But I was like, if you just keep doing the right thing and you keep showing up, it'll happen. And we go down this little bottom and turn the corner, man, and like I caught my first bobcat with him. And then 10 feet from there was the biggest beaver I've ever caught until the end of this season. And they were, and I'll tell you something, man, for a 6 and an 8-year-old, like a snarling bobcat, I mean, it's impressive no matter how old you are, but, it made an impression on him, right? And that whole day turned around for him. And then, and then I was like, I've got to grind this in. I was like, let's go get a pizza. And, they were stoked on it. Daddy, I want a bobcat vest. It's what I did today was, because I did exactly what you're talking about. Day 3, I had enough sense not to blow the whole property up, but the place I was in, I was hitting that box call, right? Which I don't think is necessarily the wrong thing to do. And I never like Western styled them. I didn't like go crank every 100 yards.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like I'm talking like walk 5 feet, assembly, walk 5 feet, assembly, walk 5 feet, assembly. The whole way, and just below. I'm like, if I ain't gonna kill him, ain't nobody killing him, kind of deal.
I've been purposely like, I'll be in, the far left corner, and then I'll leave that other corner alone for the day, right? And I'll work a spot, and I'll sit in a spot for an hour and a half or whatever. And then this morning, I said, man, I'm going to be in that, and I'm just got to go off of the little bit I've got, right? But, past experience, just gut intuition. I do think there's something to picking places sometimes that are, like, good for your soul, that are, like, pretty. Because part of the reason that it's pretty, there's a little bit of grass in there. I was like, man, this sure looks like a place where there'd be grasshoppers and bugs and, a little creek back here. And I got in there in enough time, and I made myself. And I pushed myself from like every 15 minutes. I was like, dude, make it take 22 minutes before you call, and then just like soft call, and just because they will come in on you with that, and you won't. They're not gobbling. They're not all strutting. I sat down and I made myself, not point towards where I thought they'd come, so that I had that whole range. I'm right-handed, so I could swing to the left and all that. And like, it didn't work, but I did it as right as I know how to. And some of that is training for when it will work. But anyway, man, I wanted that was a good run talking about turkeys and what they can do to you. But
they will, man.
If you don't turkey hunt, like I'm thinking about one guy in particular who doesn't turkey hunt, doesn't care at all about him, man. And
lucky guy.
Man, I kind of don't understand how you could be that way, but anyway, I do think what we just discussed is illustrative of how they can command your attention, right? And I mean, dude, I've got encounters that I think about every couple of days, and little bits of it, like the color of that bird's head, right? Like feeling it drum. And really the ones that do it to me are the ones that didn't work. That didn't go right.
That's the ones that hang around in the memory bank.
But, okay, so for folks that don't know Spring Legion, right? So I'm assuming that's coming from Colonel Kelly's book, right? So
right.
Colonel Kelly, there's a guy named Colonel Tom Kelly, right? Who I would say probably holds the spot as like maybe one of the more revered turkey hunters of modernity, right? Like the last 50 years.
Right.
And in the mid 70s, he wrote a book called Spring Legion.
10th Legion.
10th Legion, sorry.
I get mixed up all the time. Out of
So,
habit,
yeah. He wrote a book called 10th Legion, which was referencing this Roman legion, this specialty Roman legion, right? Like we're talking about like a subsect of the Roman army.
Mm-hmm.
But, the book starts out and it's talking about how like people that turkey hunt, and especially back then, like people that turkey hunt are like a different breed. It's like a small select group of people. And I think even today, you have people that kind of in a cursory manner turkey hunt, especially now that's gotten a bunch of it's gotten a bunch of attention on social media and whatnot. But as far as people that are kind of consumed by it, that are compelled by it, and when he wrote that book, man, I mean, you want to talk about the dog days of turkey hunting,
Oh, yeah.
man. Like there weren't a whole bunch. There weren't very many people turkey hunting. There weren't a lot of birds.
Few and far between.
A very different method of hunting. Still an effective method, but that's kind of where that like sit and make 3 notes and don't say anything else for an hour or whatever kind of came from. And also like probably like a level of a lack of available information, and I don't know if I'd call it hostility, but like if you were a kid and you went to like an old guy that was a good turkey hunter and told him you wanted a turkey hunt, he'd be like, good luck, man.
Yeah.
He's not going to take you. He's not going to show you anything.
And that is the small difference, because I mean, and that's where the Legion part of the brand name came from, was just and more than anything was an opportunity to tell folks about the 10th Legion and tell them, go grab a copy that'll tell you everything you need to know about turkey hunting and its culture and those who hunt them, and it's one of those things that it's just I hope that book lands on the table of everybody, and then folks who have thought about turkey hunting, if they'll read that book, they'll understand that. I mean, like you just explained, what I consider the difference in hunting turkeys and turkey hunters, and especially around here, the cultural aspect of turkey hunter as a tag attached to someone's name is a big deal. I think it's it's a reverence of who that person is and can tell you a lot about that person, as opposed to folks who do enjoy hunting turkeys in the springtime when it's pretty and stuff outside, but they also enjoy hunting everything because they're just outdoorsmen and stuff. And then, but yeah, going into the bird itself, I think he grabbed it about as good as you can, and I can't explain it any better than he was able to. But yeah, the book means a lot, and his way of going about it means a lot, and the poetry involved in such a phenomena that happens, and then the kind of the mantra behind our brand is unofficially just not subject to change. Not necessarily because I don't think turkey hunting is subject to change, but the feelings that Colonel Kelly felt then, even with so few of them and so few turkeys, is no different than the feeling that you felt with that gobbler drum 3 feet behind you. That feeling is a commonality attaching generations of turkey hunters, and in today's world, everything's different. Obviously, that's how civilization advances, fortunately and unfortunately. But with technology and stuff, and a growing popularity in it, I don't think that would be a bad thing. I think popularity can be a good thing if it's utilized in the correct manner. But and that all depends on who you learn from, and that was the main difference. I wouldn't disagree. I grew up with a dad who was a turkey hunter, and he was still of that generation where you don't talk about turkey hunting to anybody, even other turkey hunters, especially non-turkey hunters. The last thing you want is another turkey hunter in the same county. But I was blessed to tag along with him and learn a lot from him. But being being out there, and we have a podcast. I've written 2 books, and teaching folks about turkey hunting is very anti-turkey hunter to some folks, and it still is kind of to me. And I feel sometimes I feel in the wrong for saying something that took me a long time to learn, or something that could have taken somebody else a long time to learn. But I would much rather folks be drawn to the hunting of a turkey instead of having killed a turkey. And I think in a world that is so immediate and used to Amazon and YouTube, things that are very fast and at your fingertips at all time, including information, I think if they can, and what I preach the most is learning from the turkey. And you can take everything I say with a grain of salt, because it might not work. That's why I don't feel too guilty about telling them of things that has worked in the past, because I can think of 3 times it hadn't worked. But I think there's no way to control other people, but you can at least direct them in ways in which you have been directed, and I think that's all we try to do is if we're going to put the hunting of a turkey in a positive light, as we know it to be, what it means to be a turkey hunter, and the weight it carries and stuff. That's what we try to do, and take it for what it's worth, and hopefully they get in the woods and find out for themselves and experiment on their own and stuff. There are no guarantees in turkey hunting. I don't care what the label says on the box, but that's all we try to make sure. The point we try to get across is turkey hunting is something you don't buy, and we sell stuff that people take turkey hunting, but it ain't never gonna make you kill a turkey. It's not gonna make you more successful. It's only getting in the woods can do that.
You know, man, I've wrestled with some of this myself, because like trapping's the same way. People used to be really, really tight-lipped with trapping, and that was mostly because there was actual money to be made.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Who wants to give away money?
Turkey hunting, duck hunting, right? You know, like where I live is, you know, ducks have the cultural reverence that turkeys have here, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of strange, man, because like you just cross the river and it totally
big
changes.
Difference though.
It also changes, like you cross the river this way and you got a lot more turkeys.
Yeah.
2 years ago, man, me and my buddy were driving to Georgia. We were coming through Mississippi, and I said, man, I was explaining it to him. He's from Utah, and I was like, man, it's weird, man. As soon as you cross this river, man, they got a whole bunch more turkeys. And like 10 minutes later, man, I saw a semi-truck nail a longbeard. Really? Yeah, man. I pulled back. I went down, turned around, man, went and dude, good bird, man. Really? Yeah, like an 8-inch beard, man.
Probably had been racking somebody's mind for 3 years, and all of a sudden he'll be out there for year 4 and 5 looking for it, and it's dead on the side of the road.
They man, I called the game and fish, and I asked him. I was like, man, can I mean, because his whole back was blown out, but like it was eatable, you know. And the guy was like, I wouldn't do it. And then I could have taken the bird, but I just hated to leave it on the side of the road, man.
Oh yeah, no.
Would have loved to cook it up.
That would feel wrong, but I understand.
Yeah, I mean, and dude, I really try and play by the rules, so man, it still bothers me that I left it there. Anyway, man, like as far as putting information out there, I think that this is what I've come to on it. Mm-hmm. You can communicate ethos to people, right? You can communicate intent. You can communicate what is important far beyond the act of killing an animal, mm-hmm. right? And I think that there is tremendous value, especially in, like you said, this age of immediacy. There is tremendous value in that. I personally would love to see a crash in the popularity of duck hunting, right? Mm-hmm. I'd love to see a crash in the popularity of turkey hunting. I mean, these are for selfish reasons, right? But I'm also aware that like you've got this push and pull, because hunters, people that identify as hunters, are becoming a smaller and smaller portion of the population. You got to have enough people to keep this to be a viable pursuit, right? And I think if you have to deal with that, then you've got to communicate ethos and intent, and and give people the opportunity to get through those first, they call the 4 stages of hunting, and let them get through the first 3, which is I want to kill something, I want to kill a bunch of something, I want to kill a big something, I want to show someone else how to do it, right? And so if you can explain value to people and impart that to folks, then I feel like you're putting something good into the world. Because I really, really wrestled with this. Like, I guess 5 years ago. 5 years ago, man, I did this Meat Eater episode, right? And I was like, man, am I messing up spec hunting? And what I settled on was everyone in Arkansas was starting to pay attention to specs anyway because the duck hunting had gotten rough. Mm-hmm. And so everybody with a lease was like, man, these specs are all over the place, right? I don't think that I had any effect on the spec hunting getting harder because it was coming anyway. But, I had that 30 minutes to talk about plucking birds and cooking the heart and the gizzard and the liver and why it mattered to me and getting 3 ladies on their first animal ever and like putting my point of view into the world, right? And I kind of felt like that had more value in it than maybe a few more people were going to come to Arkansas to try and kill a speckled belly. And so like, and then there's also that weird question you have to roll around your head about the monetization of it, right? Mm-hmm. And like, you're trying to make a living, you got kids to take care of, right? You want to grow something. And man, I think there's a balance that can be struck if you are intentional about it. And I think just not being sloppy and just staying intentional, that's the best case scenario. Man, I want to give you a compliment, and it's a podcast y'all did a few years ago. And that guy I told you about, David Joy, he sent it to me. He's like, man, you should listen to it. And I'm going to be remiss here because I forget the gentleman's name, but I listened to that podcast like 3 times in a row. I want to say his name's George. He was a mentor of yours.
George Mayfield?
Yes. And, man, he said something, and it was one of the more profound things. And this buddy of mine, David Joy, who is, I would say that he's probably carrying the torch of like a William Faulkner, as far as Southern Gothic novels. He's that good. But there was a line in there he talked about having a bird that beats you for a season or 2 and then killing it, and there being a sad gladness, which I thought was such a beautiful turn of phrase, and I've rolled it around in my head so many times since then. And so like that right there, to me, that communicates so much ethos and intent, and mindset, to especially when, in a time where there's like this, you got guys reaping birds and trying to, how many hours can we pull off a grand slam and all that stuff, to talk of, because really we're talking about a level of vulnerability here, right? And there being that mixed emotion and being successful and having mixed feelings about it, right? And I think people that are doing it for the right reasons understand that.
Absolutely, and that's the product we push is getting to that level of understanding and for the consumer's benefit. I don't think when anybody can kill a turkey if they want to buy enough stuff to kill one. That it's not that hard if you have the money and the time to allow it and the hookups on spots and stuff. It's the emotions behind it, and just like Mr. George, who is a pioneer for turkey hunting culture, he is one of the real OGs in it. And he has seen more, forgotten more than I'll probably know at the time, honestly. But that feeling is very accurate. Now, I mean, and I've only experienced a time or two, but that does drive me more than anything. Is something that meaningful, and it's a weird. It's weird. It's hard to explain that feeling he's talking about. It is very contradicting to feel a sense of remorse and also satisfaction, fulfillment, and not regret, but you wish you could hunt him again, and you can't. You know, it's finality in a very raw sense, and the woods have never felt that quiet before. You know, as lively as they have been for X amount of times, the first quiet morning is the one you kind of hang on to, and this it means a lot because I mean you've poured a lot into it and developed almost a relationship with an expectation and a wild animal, and I've heard other folks who are not in the industry explain it in terms of deer hunting and stuff, and when you're after a big buck, which I don't deer hunt, I just turkey hunt. I shot 2 deer this year just for the sake of going and filling the freezer. But now he explained it in deer hunting terminology of once a buck you've been after has gotten downwind of you and busted out of there, he knows what you smell like. And, and it's kind of the same way like a turkey that you've been hunting on, religiously and have tried everything. He knows what to expect of you and your tendencies as much as you've learned the bird's tendencies. He knows. It's almost like he knows he's being hunted, and he knows. And sometimes I think he gobbles out of spite to let you know that he knows you're there, but he's not coming to you. Just enough to make you mad about it. And I definitely think some of them have to know you're there, and they hang around long enough to putt and let you make sure they're there, and that you have failed that day, just so they can be there to make sure that it's confirmed, that you don't leave wondering wishy-washy. Maybe he didn't see me. He wants to make sure he saw you, and but that's how you learn, and that's how you develop such a strong passion for something like this. If you take the passion out of it, it's very crazy to do some of the things we do for the chance of killing a wild turkey. And it's never actually the killing of a wild turkey, it's the chance of killing it, and it has kept me up night and night again. And it's not killing the wild turkey, it's the chance of killing him, and sometimes there is fulfillment. I've not risked my life, but risked health and safety, definitely, and I've ended relationships and jobs and stuff over them, but it's not to go kill the turkey, because I think it's a good day, is to find out if he was there. You get so attached to finding out whether or not that was the day, and the fulfillment came from knowing that it wasn't the day, that he was there, and that you weren't going to kill him, but at least you could sleep at night. Because I could sleep easier knowing that I failed rather than I might not have failed that day had I gone. And it'll drive you crazy in the good and the bad times.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of years where seasons ending are so bittersweet, yeah, because they're you know that it's done, but I get to where I've got, like, I can't stop. Like, I've got to take advantage of the opportunity.
Right.
And so that, like, I hunted last day Arkansas last year, man. Like, and where I was hunting was not close. It's 2.5 hours away. And, and it was Mother's Day, actually. And so, man, we got up. I felt like I probably did the best Mother's Day I'd ever done for my wife. And, we kind of did all the stuff we were going to do, and I asked, I was like they're going to take a nap or whatever. I was like, would you be all right with me going for the last day? And she was like, yeah. And so I drove out there, and I knew I was going for the last 3.5 hours of the day, and I just sat there till the last moment and never heard anything. And I was writing that bird I told you about that I got on and just stayed 15, 20 yards away from me for like 15 minutes and just spit and drummed. And just because of the topography, I couldn't see him. I just sat, I was right there in his little bedroom. And, man, I knew what tree that bird had been roosting in. He had been in the same tree, just covered, scat on the bottom. And truthfully, probably that day was the last day that that day that I didn't get him was the last day he probably got up in that tree. You know, I changed his pattern. But, dude, I think all the time about birds that, man, I wish I knew what I learned by the end of season and could go back on that. And that sad gladness, dude, that is the way that I have felt with every bear that I've killed. Because the way I hunt bears is so intimate, you know, and it's slip hunting deep into the national forest and, you know, finding what trees they're eating acorns on at that moment, you know, and then killing them inside of 20 yards. And, you know, bears, too, bears have a tendency to be vocal when they die.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And it's weird, and it is unsettling, and it's and bears, man, just the way they move is very different than other animals. And I have such a tremendous amount of respect for them. I mean, that's what's kept me going, trying to get one, and then getting some level of proficiency as far as chasing them. But yeah, man, I think I'll probably never forget that phrase, a sad gladness, because that's how I felt every time I've killed a bear. And, you know, I'm so man, it's hard, and there's that feeling of success and, you know, this crescendo of this orchestra you've been trying to put together for all these months. But then knowing that you took something that, I mean, you took the life of something that magnificent, right? All right, hard turn on this. So this is something I've thought about listening to your podcast, which if folks haven't listened to Hunter's podcast, it's under the same title as his brand, Spring Legion podcast. But, you know, so I mean, so I'm sure you're aware, right? But you're aware that you got a pretty healthy Mississippi drawl, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that
I've tried to change it, but I can't.
Oh, there's no need, man. That's something that's pretty interesting to me because, you know, I think that most people kind of have two feelings about a thick Southern accent, which is they either find it endearing or they think the person is dumb. Right. And
usually the latter, but
I think honestly, I think a lot of times, which is, you know, can be a strength, I think, for a lot of people because, you know, being underestimated can really be like a power move when you're trying to make stuff happen, right? But I've thought about this with listening to your podcast because, I mean, you've got a particularly strong accent, right? And I'm going to be so bold as to reach into this book.
Yeah,
man,
grab yourself.
This is something, man, I'm going to purchase from you before I leave here. I hope you'd be kind enough to sign it for me. But, man, this is something that an endeavor that I respect really above most others. And it's such a sign of how wrong the idea that someone with a Southern accent is like unintelligent, right? So what I'm holding here is a book that you've written. It's called Ballad of a Turkey Hunter, Any Given Spring Morning. And man, I so respect. It's something that I intend to do. I'm trying to do. Like, honestly, this writing and photography project that I'm in the middle of right now is really probably I suspect it'll either turn into part of this book that I've been rolling around in my head for a long time, or will immediately proceed going into this book that I hope to write. But man, the dedication, the chutzpah, the courage it takes to do something like this, to write a book, and this is a substantial book. Man, I guess I'm just giving you compliment after compliment, man. But like, dude, I really admire this, and I'd love for you to maybe just discuss it with the listeners and talk about it a little bit.
I appreciate that, first off, but I don't know if you just see me write it, the accent might proved to be right on half of it because I didn't know how to write a book, obviously. I made C's in all my English classes, and they weren't wrong. The teachers weren't wrong. But I wrote Ballad of a Turkey Hunter in 2020, I think. And it was just a bunch of typing, and had to just do a bunch of spaces to figure out margins and stuff. I obviously didn't know how to write a book format and stuff like that, and how I just drug the spacing line to where it matched however many. I was in there counting how many lines were on a 9-inch piece of paper, how many it should be. Just grabbed an old book and made it look like that, and figured out how to put page numbers on it. And then I sent it to the manuscript. I didn't really tell anybody I was writing it because I wasn't sure if I was going to release it or how it would go about. But sent it to my buddy who was able to take honors English class that I was not able to get accepted into, who is at least smarter than I am, and he went through with a red pen and showed me where all the comma splices were and stuff, and what didn't make sense and stuff. But halfway through, I was like, well, you don't turkey hunt enough to know that does make sense. If you were to turkey hunt a lot, that's very legible. It's just written in a very run-on style of writing, which is how a lot of folks around here talk. And it did really well. It became a bestseller in a lot of Amazon's categories, and was pretty high up on their overall rankings for a good while, and kind of reignited a relationship between literature and turkey hunting culture there for a good stint. And hopefully, if there was a bridge needed to continue on such a connection between the two things, I hope it did it. And it's just a mix between stories and highlighting what turkey hunting is to me and a lot of other folks, apparently, because a lot of folks bought it. So I hope they enjoyed it. I've gotten good feedback on it, and I don't have any aspirations to write another one, but I got a long way to go, a lot to learn between now and then anyway.
Did you self-publish this?
Mm-hmm. Figured out that from A to B to C the whole way through. Had to figure every step of the way out.
Man, that's I so admire that, man, because it really, to me, man, that, how am I trying to say this? Man, it takes a set of balls, man, because one, to spend that time, kind of sequestered away and put that together. And, writing for me is occasionally if I write an article or I write a piece or something, like it comes out smoothly, but most of the time, man, I'm fighting for every line.
Yeah,
it's like a painful experience, and the end result is something I take a lot of pleasure and pride in, but the actual act of it is not enjoyable. And to do that, and this is something I said about another writing project some folks I encountered did, man, but to be compelled, to feel a need to put something in the world, as far as, that's why I wrote songs. Like I spent a long time writing songs and playing music and going places and doing that. And that's why I wrote songs. That's why I built Black Duck. That's why I am on this project I'm doing now, man. It's just, I feel like there's something inside of me that needs to be put into the world. And then to do it and not be concerned with whether or not a gatekeeper tells you that it's good enough, right? And to put it in the world and then just allow the response from other people to be that validation. Which, I would imagine there's a level of validation. If you only sold 50 copies of this to your family and friends, right? You still know you did something.
It's hard to. It's easier for me, and I don't know, it might be for other folks too, but it's easier to write about turkey hunting than it is to talk about it, because just like go read a book and then go watch the movie, and which one's better? Well, the book's always better because you can get a mental aspect. There's a fourth dimension to it that only writing, I think, can get. And telling someone how it happened, there's not room for you to also explain how you perceived it to happen or how you imagine him perceiving it to happen. The turkey, you can put yourself in different persons there, And you can do that in writing because you got all, and ain't nothing but blank space. I feel like when you start a conversation, there's a finite end to every opportunity you got to tell something, and because you're waiting for a response, an immediate response. When you're writing, there isn't a response. There is just what you have to say. It's a one-way street, and at the end is over, and then the response can come. And frankly, I didn't read back through it until I think this time last year, and I was like, nah, dear God, this is bad. I was like, this is rough right here. I could at least send it to somebody else to at least tell me that, hey, you went a whole page without a period there, dog. You might want to break it down a little bit, make it flow a little better, but I still don't think I changed nothing in it. But yeah, and there was no validation. I'd have written it anyway just to have for folks. If I die tomorrow, they'll at least know what I thought and some of the things happening in turkey hunting, and there's got to be a reason for everything that happens, and I'm not talking like fate or destiny. I mean, like, that was the purpose behind that. Was I think if things can get forgotten easily, and this is and even in a lifetime in 50 years, if I wish I would have recorded the way I perceived something that means a lot to me, I think I would have. I wouldn't regret writing them down. I think I'll be glad I did, and then and open to changing them if needed. But I think the heart and soul of who you are as a hunter is not going to change, and I think it's had a big impact on a lot of other folks, especially folks who weren't raised in the turkey woods and stuff like that, and didn't go through some of the experiences, and I think it would be refreshing to a lot of folks who look at success, however you may define it, in the turkey woods, and read. Go either read some of Colonel Kelly's books or anything of that nature, or really sit down with someone like a George Mayfield and stuff, and bring a pencil and a napkin and tally on one half birds they killed, and then on the other half, right, birds they did not kill, and the tallies on the ones they did not kill is going to get talked about a whole lot more. So a lot of those is about turkeys I didn't kill. It's not, it's about really highlighting the ability of the opposition more than it is what you can do to be successful. It's just one big tip of the cap of who you're even fighting.
Well, man, and you know what? When I was talking to Ramsey Russell, because we recorded an episode of this podcast, and then we recorded an episode for him and his podcast, and one of the things we discussed was that when I feel like when you're chasing these turkeys, it's not, sometimes it feels like it, but really the turkey is not your adversary, right? Mm-hmm. The adversary to me is my own shortcomings, right? Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to suss out is like the best of me to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. Which is like, how could you not love something that gives you that opportunity, mm-hmm. right, to do that? Yeah, dude, you can even tell, like, the way we've been discussing this, man, like, there is a romanticism to this, right? It's the same reason I fell in love with hunting ducks, right? I didn't fall in love with being around a bunch of people and sitting in a big box, metal box blind and like blasting birds. I fell in love with like the sound of wind over wings.
Oh yeah.
And me and my dog and watching the sun come up and listening to the world wake up. And that's the set, man, dude. When I sat there this morning in that beautiful little spot, and you hear the Tweety birds get louder and louder.
You got an order, they come in.
Yeah, and you're hearing the pileated wood, man. Those woodpeckers, it's like the same cadence as a gobble. It's always messes with me, And
especially down in that area in the river bottoms and stuff, where everything echoes.
Yeah, and then when you do get that, that king of the woods, man, you get that eastern gobble, which is, the same reason in Arkansas hunters, a long time ago, they developed, they started cutting down those PS Olds, those D2s, and getting that deep, resonant sound was to all that sound absorbing material from hunting in the timber, right? You need you need that pitch to get through there. It's different than if you're hunting big open, like a big open marsh. You can have a higher pitched call. Like, to me, that's got to be why the Easterns sound the way they do, why they got that can rattle in them, right? Which is different than a Rio or a Miriam's. You know, a Miriam is like a lot higher pitch because they're in these open areas. But there's so many cliches, but there's something primal about it. You really feel those gobbles when everything hits right, man. You feel those gobbles. Your body becomes like a resonator for it. You know, it feels like a dobro or something having a string plucked. And man, I'll tell you, this is another hard segue. This is the first year my daughter pulled a tag. And I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I put both of my girls are old enough to hunt in Arkansas now, and so like I can put them in for a youth tag on a WMA, both of them in, and then I can put them in for a regular tag, and then I can put myself in for it. And one, I want to spend that time with them.
Oh yeah.
And two, there's strategy involved.
Yeah,
because
three chances.
Oh, that's 5 chances.
Oh yeah, technically, yeah.
That's 5 chances on that piece of property
that's a go.
we could possibly get in there. And so we did that, and my oldest daughter got that. And I mean, look, it'll be a hard. It's very unlikely that me and her are going to take a turkey in that place, but I'm going to have that opportunity. And, you know, she's probably, her biggest interest in that lies in that her younger sister has been with me and, like, killed a pig and killed a deer and stuff. And so there's some competition there. But I also know how special that time will be.
Oh, yeah. Invaluable.
And just, we'll be able to spend time together. And I also feel like it's a way for, she'll be able to understand her father just a little bit better, right?
Right, yeah.
And get to have some special time. And man, I wanted to mention this. We're probably getting to that. We hit that hour mark, man. We're probably getting a wrap up time. But and I'll be super frank with you, man. I thought about this a bunch, and I wasn't quite sure how to bring it up, but I'll leave you open to say whatever you want on it. But man, you made a post the other day that like really struck me, man. And I want to compliment you, man, because it was super vulnerable and it was super beautiful, and I felt like I understood it so well, man. And you talked about hunting on March 20th, and you talked about your boy, and man, I've thought about it since I saw that post on Instagram, and I don't even know really what to say about it other than, man, I appreciate that you were willing to be vulnerable like that, and it made me. I thought it communicated a whole lot about who you are as a man, and it really was one of those moments where it made me feel it just, I took stock of what I had in my life, man, and it just, again, like the same with the book, man, like you're putting stuff into the world that resonates.
No. I appreciate that, and that there's purpose behind that, and I hope it was able to do that. That's not necessarily why. I think, being a writer, you do stuff, and this a release is the way you get it out. If you go crazy, if your emotions stay inside of you, and but no, I think there's a grieving process. For those who don't know, that was my son's birthday, who was born a twin to my daughter now, Eva, and ironically born on 2 different days. That Eva was born on 11/59, and William was born on 12/04 on the 20th of March 4 years ago. And he died after a week or so. And there's a grief process behind that, and it was hard to feel, like there was a void in my life as I am able to go home to 2 girls running around and love playing with turkey feathers, and we went and picked flowers every afternoon and everything, and there's a lot of fortune in that, and I don't think that should get overshadowed, and it's hard to rather or prefer your own timing, and that's something I do mention in the second book, which is Any Given Spring Morning, which is dedicated to him. I wrote that right after he had died, and I had no intention of writing a second book, but without it, I don't know if anybody who would had known about him too much, having a short lifetime there. But I do mention that I think in the meantimes of processing what has happened and everything, I think that you can't have faith in God and His timing and not be absolute. I think it's a very black and white deal. I think you either have faith in all of His time and trust all of His time, have faith in all the plans that He has, or you don't have any, and you can't just pick and choose which ones you like. So I've, the first step in that is accepting that it is part of a greater plan, and that who am I to claim that's just my son? That's also a child of God, I believe, and I don't necessarily have the rights on what he does with it. Whether or not I wish I do, of course I do. But I decided to go hunt on his birthday the first time. I was tired of spending it staring at an empty dining room table where he was not, and figured that I don't think a fourth year in a row would make him there. There was nothing to reminisce or reimagine there, and figured I would go where I did know I had felt his presence, and that is Turkey Woods. And lo and behold, it worked out in a manner that only you can imagine. On a special event, a special morning. But I wasn't out there to kill turkey. I was out there to spend time with God and feel the presence of purpose and understanding and everything. And by product, ran in some turkeys, and that was a special moment. But yeah, I mean, I think, and I sincerely believe that. I think everything does happen for a reason. There's purpose behind everything, and that we are just kind of but a speck of sand in terms of infinite. I mean, it's not. Reality is one thing, but divinity would maybe be a better word in the grand scheme of things of life itself, pretty much. And turkey hunting is just a small part of it. It's just a part I enjoy a lot. There's a lot more to life than turkey hunting, but it's funny how some of the stuff that you are, drawn to more than others, or if you are given a voice as a person in the outdoors, or if one people, just like the book, if 50 people buy it one way or another, or 500,000 people buy it and read it, and same with our podcast, same with everything we do. What you say matters to one of them. It's good. That's good enough for me. Is I ain't worried about the ones who don't care. If it can help or better anybody in the aspect of anything, not just turkey hunting. Mission accomplished, I guess.
Yeah, man. I think work finds the people and the places that it's supposed to, and there's probably something to like us personally. We find meaning in the things that hold meaning to us, right? Right. So does that mean that is your daughter's birthday March 19th? Mm-hmm. That's my birthday.
Really?
Man. Yeah, it is. I'll tell, man. I don't know if I've told this story. I kind of feel like I should after you just said that, but maybe I have told this story on the podcast. I can't remember exactly. But so my boy is he's 3.5, and man, I grew up. My mom's lived in the same house for 51 years, and then our neighbors up the street, Jane and Michael, man, they've lived in that same house for like 45 or something. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with their 2 sons, and just like going and knocking on each other's door and riding bikes, and like I used to drive Steven to school because I was always like 2 years older than the oldest, and all that stuff, man. And it was Steven and Andy, and Andy got cancer and died, and it was a super big bummer, man, because he saw it coming. Yeah. Right. And like, it was even one of those things where, like, he had just had a daughter, and, like, on her first birthday, he bought 18 birthday cards, you know, because he knew he wasn't going to be there for the second one. But when I was having my boy, Andy's birthday. So Andy's mom is Jewish and his dad is Catholic, and his birthday is December 22nd. And always growing up as a kid, I was always super jealous because it wasn't one of those deals where, like, he didn't get a bunch for his birthday because they combined it. Like, in 1 week, man, he had a week of Hanukkah, got a present every night, and then he had his birthday, and they blew it out for that, and then he got Christmas, man. And he just crushed it for like a week and a half in December. And my boys was supposed to be born on, I think, the December 10th, maybe, and something like that. And both of my girls were both born on their due dates. But I asked Andy's parents, I was like, man, you know, I'd like to name my boy Andy. And I was like, if you're cool with that. And they're like, yeah, that'd be great. Anyway, long story short, man, he came like 10 or 11 days late, and he was born on Andy's birthday.
Really?
Yeah, man. And it's, and you know, I'm not a religious person, but I do feel like there's just so much out there that is beyond understanding, right? And I mean, I believe in coincidence or the universe or whatever, man, but I very much feel that, like, you know, part of the reason to put things into the world is because that's what the world and the universe and humanity runs on, right? Is like, you got to put stuff into the world, and then you'll just be given these little drops of things to say, man, you know, that this system is working, right? This wheel is continuing to turn, right? That there's ripples from the stones that are being thrown into the pond, right? And that was, I remember when that happened, and I was like, man, there's a million reasons to say that doesn't have any meaning, but buddy, I'd never been able to find one.
Gotta be something.
It seems like there's something to it, you know? And yeah, and now I got this boy, man. He's awesome. He's a mess, but he's awesome. His mama just texted me the other day and said that oh man, I'll tell you what, he was, man, sticking his hands down in his pants and running around. I'm constantly trying to tell this kid, I was like, man, you got to stop playing with that thing, man. You know, like, and I never had to do that with my girls. But it's like, dude, you got to stop doing this. Like, you're going to be out in the world and you can't be grabbing on that thing. But anyway, man, so, man, let folks know how they can find you and buy your books and and everything you're up to.
Pretty much everything is springlegion.com. So we sell a bunch of apparel and gear and stuff, and it's all traditional stuff. It's not a bunch of gimmicks and guarantees or money backs. It's just stuff you can wear turkey hunting, and then the book is also there. Signed copies are, and then I think you get them on Amazon too. And then all the handles on social media is that Spring Legion, and then mine is hunter.farrior, F-A-R-R-I-O-R. So that's where I'll be for next few weeks, just chasing turkeys and checking that thing every now and then.
Man, and I would say if you do buy one of Hunter's books, man, buy it directly from Spring Legion.
Yeah, I don't care where they get it from, but yeah, you can get it signed from Spring Legion.
Yeah, man. No, Jeff Bezos don't need any more money, man. He got enough, man. Throw your
you're right.
Throw your shekels here to Mississippi, and I see that you rock. A lot of this has mossy oak patterns, right? Which that's another homegrown Mississippi business. So, yeah, just think about that stuff, man. There's levels to supporting small businesses and creators and artistic expression and stuff, right? And so when you get something that you got a couple different layers on there, man, I always try and encourage people to do so.
Man,
anyway, man, seriously, I know I just reached out to you out of the blue, and I know it's middle of turkey season, but I really appreciate you taking the time and enjoy the conversation, man.
Heck yeah, dude. Appreciate you coming by and talking about it.
Absolutely. And folks, thanks for listening. Until next time.